Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a harvest moon with some autumn leaves in front of it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think this will be a good beginner lesson tonight. I'll show you step by step how to do it from start to finish. I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's going to chat during our live show, so if you've got questions while I'm painting, you can ask those, and I'll try to answer. Let's get started. All right, so I'm going to be using a 9x12 inch canvas board today. This is a Fredrix mixed media canvas board. Really any size would work, I think, for this image, but the 9x12 kind of fits nicely under the camera here, so that's what I like to use. And then you're going to want some sort of round object to do your moon. So however large you want your moon, this happens to be a scrapbooking template for cutting out a circle that I had, but you could use a jar lid or even a Scotch tape roll. I'm going to use the larger size here. And if you don't have the right size here, what you could do is trace out a circle on paper in the size that you want. So use any kind of circular object that's the size that you want your moon to be. Trace it out on paper, cut out that circle, and then tape your tape the edges together where you've cut to get into your circle, to cut out that circle, and then use that in like a heavy weight paper, like a cardstock works best. And then you can use that as your template as well. So it's another tip. Just make sure you tape up your open edge. All right, and then you're going to want a large brush for your background. So I'm going to be using the Aspen 2-inch from Princeton. And then you're going to also want some sort of a scrubby brush for our moon. So our moon's got lots of texture and such in it. And I'm going to use some 3/8 inch Deerfoot Stippler. I've got a Scumbler 6, and then I've got my blenders 3/8 inch and 1/4 inch. So I'll probably use a little bit of all of these. I've got two different sizes of these so that if I change my colors, I don't have to change my brush. And then a fan brush or some sort of brush for doing our splattering for our stars. You can even use a toothbrush. Old toothbrush works. And then for our leaves, you're going to want some small round or a small flat or angle brush. So, and we'll get to that as we go. I'll tell you the exact brushes that we're using. And I grabbed a palette knife too, just to use for color mixing. And then the last thing is a pastel chalk pencil or a watercolor pencil for our drawing. So, and we're not going to do a whole lot of drawing for this. We're going to kind of mostly freehand it. But I do want to start out by kind of figuring out where my moon is going to go. So I'm going to just, and that way when I put my sky in, I can do a little bit lighter around that moon area. So that's what I'm going to do now, is just kind of figure out. And it's really close up to the top here. And then there's some leaves that are coming in, filling up this corner. So I want to go like find my halfway mark and come in just maybe like 1/3 on that moon. That makes sense? And then just maybe about 1 inch from the top or so. It's a little closer to the top actually in our image, but I'm going to come down just a little bit. I don't like it to have it right up against it, because if you framed this, you're going to be framing that top 1/4 inch or so could be covered up, and I don't want to get so close to it that it would cover up the corner of my moon. All right, so there we go. That looks about right. And then we've got plenty of room under here to put our branches, and then another little space over here. So I'm just going to kind of lightly circle this with my pencil on the inside. And having this outside protected really makes it easy, because then we can kind of scrub in our moon and not have to worry about messing up our background. I am going to have you dry this though, so at some point.
Okie dokie.
I mean, this is almost actually too small. Honestly, we could probably even go a little bit bigger. We could probably have gone almost the diameter, but I don't have a bigger one right now, so it's going to have to do for today. But you could really make this quite large if you wanted to. All right, I'm going to get a little bit of water on my brush, just dipping it in the tip of the brush into the water and just making sure that it kind of wicks up into here, but I don't want to stop in wet. And then I'm going to grab my Phthalo blue. Oh, let's go over our colors. Sorry, forgot. Burnt umber. I'm sorry, carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, cadmium yellow light, Phthalo blue green shade, Quinacridone Magenta, Cadmium Red Light, and Cadmium Orange. And then this is Unbleached Titanium, Titanium White, and some fluid Zinc White for our stars and some of the scumbling. And then this is Gloss Glazing Liquid. All right, I'm going to spray this one more time too. And I'm going to spray my board as well, just one time, very lightly to, oops, that doesn't have anything on it that tells you what it is. It's very old. I don't even know where I got it from.
I'm just
measuring it. Oh, okay.
Who wanted to know?
Okay. So I'm going to add burnt sienna to my Phthalo blue. Not quite 50-50. I want it blue, but this burnt sienna will actually make it turquoise. It's really pretty color combo. That looks pretty good. Pretty close to what I'm seeing up there. So I'm going to get a little bit of glaze. I'm going to start out with my dark color and put it on fairly heavy on my corners where I have it dark, nice and dark.
So real quick, the diameter is about 3.5 inches.
Okay.
For what you just drew there.
About 3.5 inches, okay. I'm probably going to run out of this. I'm going to go ahead and just put it on all the way around my moon. And you could really do this like solid first and then do this twice. I'm going to have to go over these corners again because this is not going on very thick. And then getting my white, a little bit of water. And then I'm just going to go over this whole area. I can still see my moon a little bit, but it's going to help fill in around that area. Phthalo blue is very transparent, so it's kind of see-through. So you may have to do this a couple of times, like I said. But just having a little bit of that color, the lighter color around my moon will be nice. Okay, now once I get that on there, I'm just going to kind of go back and forth and blend over the whole thing. Try to get out any streaks that I'm seeing. And I'm probably going to have to do this twice, like I said, because it just did not want to really cover very well for me, this first layer. I don't know where Mark went to. He's probably getting ready for the hair dryer. Okay, here you go, hon.
Oh, just in time.
Thank you.
You mean to wash that brush?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I
Thank
do,
you.
but I will.
You don't mind. All right. Paint dry like the wind. Quick. I'm going to put a little bit more blue out. I'm not going to need a whole lot of blue, but if I need it, it'll be there. All right, so I'm going to show you how we're going to do the leaves. While he's doing that, sorry, that was drawing from my bonus video there. All right, so, or not bonus video. Actually, I'll show you my bonus video. We do a monthly video for patrons, the $5 level patrons. And so we worked on this on Sunday. Still have a little bit of work left to do in the leaves. You can see this is unfinished here and most of this is unfinished. But most of our sunflowers got done and all of this. So that's about 5 hours work. And my hand started cramping. So it was like time to stop. All right, so very quickly, I'm going to show you, and I'll just use this blue because I have it out here. But when we do our leaves, they're going to be kind of like this maple shape. So they're going to be the three kind of pointed. I'm going to zoom in really well for you so you can see what I'm doing. So using the angle brush, you're going to point straight down and just kind of pull like that. Using the round brush, you're going to do kind of the same. You just press down and lift and pull. It's a little bit watery, but you get the idea. And then using a flat brush or chisel blender. This is a bright, so it's shorter. Now this is chisel blender, which it's even shorter than a bright, I think. But you're going to set the corner down just like it was a corner brush and do like that. All right, so there's our 3 different brushes. Of course, I did these fast and didn't really take much time to make sure, like with the corner brush or the angle brush there, to make sure that if you press your brush flat really well, you'll get a straighter line. So whatever your brush looks like when it starts is what your line's going to look like. So if I have a broken line when I start, we're going to end up with a little bit broken lines in our, and by broken line, I just mean my brush is like fuzzed out a little bit, or it's not making a perfectly straight line there. Okay. So that'll be our leaves. When we get to that point, we'll know kind of what we're doing and we can go kind of a little bit faster. Okay. I am going to get a little bit smaller brush. I think that'll be able to kind of maneuver a little bit easier here in the sky. And Mark took my circle thing and left it way over there. Okay. You took my circle. All right, so I'll go ahead and do a second coat on this, I think. I was debating. Oh, yeah, go ahead and zoom back out. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to use that burnt sienna and phthalo blue here. And I can actually even use just a tiny bit of black, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do that just for this corner here because I want it really dark right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on and just kind of fade it out. Put it on dark where I want it, darkest. And then just use what's left in my brush. I don't have a ton of paint in my brush. And it's creating this kind of broken line for me. And then I can get a little bit of glaze and a little bit of my color that was right here. And use that to kind of come back over that before that paint dries. Now, if you're getting like an obvious line there, you can do this a couple of times until it blends out for you. It takes a little bit of practice, but and honestly, you could just, do this all one color. It would not matter. And then you could scrub in a little bit of your brighter color around your moon. So, that's another way of doing it. But I'm kind of going a little bit darker here in the corners, just because that's what I'm seeing. But to simplify it, you could just do the whole thing kind of the same color, and just like I did that first layer, and just do it a couple of times and be totally fine. Just working towards the center. And once the paint starts to get kind of sticky or starts to act like it's drying, then you don't want to mess with it anymore. So you just want to let it dry, because the acrylics will kind of get sticky when they start to dry. So if you mess with them while they're starting to dry, they'll stick to your brush and they'll cause you all kinds of grief. So it's kind of like me in the morning. You don't want to mess with me. Mark can tell you.
Do not do that.
Angela before about 9 in the morning. Was not a happy camper.
There needs to be something majorly, seriously wrong if you wake her up before that.
Exactly. You need to be going somewhere, or somewhere to be. I will get up. All right, so it's looking a little bit blotchy, but I'm just going to go ahead and let it dry again, and hopefully we'll just go ahead and splatter it with stars, and then what we can do is just kind of do one more last layer of glaze over the top of the stars. And I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of titanium white and mix it like 50-50 with my zinc white. The zinc white is fluid. Whenever you're doing splatters or stars, you want to have your paint to be kind of like a cream consistency. It needs to be sort of milky and very, very thin. If it's too thin, it'll make huge like water splashes, which you don't want. So there's kind of a trick to it, but you can test it on your palette there. So these big ones here tell me my paint's kind of sticking together there a little bit. So I just need a little bit more water. And I'm going to dab it off on my paper towel too. And then I can, no, still a little bit more water. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to hold it up here and I'm just going to tap very lightly. And whatever direction you're tapping, that motion is going to transfer your splatters. So if I'm holding it up this way and I'm tapping this way, if I'm tapping it this way, my splatters are going to go not on my canvas. They're going to go all over my thing. So you want to hold your, if it's a toothbrush or whatever, you want to make sure that the motion that you're using is, so if I'm holding my toothbrush and it's loaded with paint, here I'm going to turn my hand upside down so that when I'm pulling back on my thumb, whatever direction you're pushing, it's going to go in the opposite direction. So you want to turn it so that it's facing straight down. And then with this, again, I'm tapping so that it's going straight down to my canvas.
Part science class.
Exactly.
Physics and dynamics.
Equal and opposite reaction. Right?
Can you explain
Is that Newton's?
Can you explain the trajectory of the paint in a formula, please?
No, that is where my science class ends. Okay, one more time, hun. So have your hair dryer handy.
Hair dryer guy handy.
Hair dryer guy handy. Yeah, for this one. You need to dry it at least 2 to 3 times for, and we may even have to have them do it when we put the moon on. We'll see. But when you're hair drying, if you're using a hair dryer, use a like medium to cool setting. You don't want it super hot, and you don't want to hold it in place over the top of your thing here. I'm trying to get it off my hand. So when I'm hair drying, like if I've got my hair dryer here, I want to keep my hair dryer about 6 inches, 8 to 6 to 8 inches away from my canvas, and be always moving it back and forth, up and down, side to side. Never just hold it in one place. You know, if you've got a spot that's not dry, that's right in the middle, don't just hold it, 2 inches from the canvas, because what can happen is that paint will actually bubble up. It's like acrylics are like a plastic, and when you apply too much heat to them, they will kind of bubble up and do weird things. And I've had that happen in classes. It's not fun, and really not a whole lot you can do to fix it. So just be careful if you're using a hairdryer. So use it responsibly. All right, I'm gonna clean out here. Not clean. Okay, there we go. And then I'm just gonna, these brushes that I'm using as I use them, I set them to the side right here off camera, set them to the side so that I know which ones I've used, and make sure that they stay wet. I don't leave them in my water. Make sure they stay wet during, while you're painting, and then what?
Some of the bigger dots may
Okay.
Be completely dry, but
Okay. Actually, the background doesn't look too bad. I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it. We'll see. We'll put the moon on, and then if we decide we need to fix the background, we can do it then. Because I do need to scrub in some stuff, but I want to kind of go ahead and start with at least my first layer on my moon here. And I don't even know where my stencil was. So we said halfway and about a third. Cashmere's in the studio announcing herself. Hi, baby girl. What are you doing? She's feeling better. She's been, we found out she was had hyperthyroidism earlier this year, and she's been on medicine for about, I don't know how many months now. A couple months, 2-3 months. Yeah. Yeah, about 3 months. And she's definitely feeling herself again. It's nice to see. All right. She's back in the studio wreaking havoc. Oh, she's making all kinds of noise. Okay, so do not wet down this brush. This is the Deerfoot Stippler 3/8 inch from Princeton. Select the blue handles. By the way, forgot to mention, thank you to Fredrix and Princeton. They're our brush and canvas sponsors, providing our materials tonight. They're awesome. All right, so you don't want to wet these brushes down because they'll get soggy. These fibers are kind of a natural hair. I'm not really sure what they're made out of, but they will get soggy just like a hog bristle brush would, and they may be hog bristles. I'm not really sure. So I'm going to get kind of equal parts unbleached titanium and titanium white. If you don't have unbleached titanium, just add a little bit of brown and yellow to your white to kind of make it off-white. And getting my brush there and kind of wiping most of it off. I have, a fairly decent amount because I do want it to cover up my blue background, but I don't want it so much and definitely not too wet because I don't want it to seep up underneath my circle here. So I'm going to just kind of start out there. And before that dries, I want to make sure that I scrub out this outline so I don't have like a weird circle inside of a circle, and then just scrub, and really just doing this already kind of makes it look like a moon, doesn't it? I'm getting a little bit of white, and I'm gonna scrub in here and leave a little bit of that blue in places where I want that darker area to be dark. That. And then we've got some dark, like brownish areas. So I'm going to get some burnt umber, a little bit of yellow oxide, and maybe a little bit of our blue from our sky. And again, wipe most of that out. And then this side is a little bit darker. So I'm going to go ahead and go right up against that line. Make sure I'm getting it right up to that line. I don't want to go underneath, but I definitely don't want to not get it up to that line either. So make sure that you're getting it right up to there. And then on this side, I'm going to get a little bit more of that unbleached titanium and kind of do this side a little bit more like yellowish almost. So this is our kind of darker side. Get some of that yellow right up against that. See, it dries really fast when you don't put it on super thick like this. So it's already, that first layer was already dry. So I was able to kind of put on a second layer, getting a little bit more of my white. And this is about all we're going to do. We're not going to go really crazy with the details on this. We don't have to. This is already looking like a moon to me. Just this little bit. Okay, let's take this off and see what we got. Look at that. Nice.
So the moon is flat.
Huh?
So the moon is flat.
And does it look flat?
Well, I mean, I'd guess if the Earth is flat, the moon has to be flat also.
Oh. Okay. I'm not sure what. I think you just insulted me, but I'm not really.
No.
Okay, there we go.
My stomach isn't flat, but it was. There's definitely a curvature.
All right, I'm going to get the blender. This is the 3/8 inch. And I'm going to use this to go around the outside here. And this is where, if you get any of that moon color on the background, ooh, that just scrubbed that right off. I'm going to have to be real careful. This acrylics take about 24 hours to fully cure. So, or I don't know, I've heard 3 hours, but I find just overnight is a better rule of thumb. Anyhow, so you don't want to scrub on them too much while they're wet. All right, so I'm going to go right around the moon here, and I'm just going to very lightly dry brush. This light blue should be about the same color as the background. I'm going to go just the slightest little smidge over the top of that edge. And what that's going to do is just kind of soften it up and also kind of clean up any edges that are not fully. And I have the smallest little bit of paint on here, like very, very little paint here. It's just going to kind of soften that all up. If you go over it too much, you can always go back and put more of your moon in with your template. Now that you've got it down, it's really easy to put it back, pop it back on there. And if you don't have a template and you just kind of drew it on, then you're braver than I am. Good for you. That's great. There we go. See how that little bit of blue, I just think it looks nicer to have just a slight little bit of that blue influencing the moon color. It's not in our photograph, but of course the photograph's Photoshop, so it's not really real. In the real world, your moon would have kind of a hazy look because your atmosphere, the blue of the atmosphere, is influencing it and kind of hazing out the colors a little bit. It's not going to be this kind of distinct, round, perfect line. It's going to be more fuzzy along the edges. Maybe through a telescope it wouldn't be, but I don't know. I think even then you'd probably still see a little bit of a fuzz around the edges of it. Huh? Some distortion, yeah.
Yeah, some distortion from the atmosphere. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Pretty. Very pretty. I like it. All right, so now I'm going to use this color, maybe a little bit. This was just this lightest color than our background. So the phthalo blue with the burnt sienna. And I added a little bit of unbleached titanium to it too, but either one. So I'm going to go one shade lighter now. So just whatever that color was, just add a little bit more of the white and the unbleached titanium to it to go just a little bit lighter there. Wipe that off, and then I'm just going to kind of scrub. And you could leave this part out if you want to, but there's kind of like a little bit of the galaxy kind of peeking out around behind the moon, and I don't even know if that's astronomically correct, if that even happens, but...
What does what happen?
The Milky Way behind the moon. I'm not really sure if that actually happens.
So technically, yes, it can happen.
It can happen? Okay.
But normally you can't see it because the moon is so bright that it drowns out the Milky Way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we're seeing it here, babe. It's happening. I'm going to get my Deerfoot Stippler because I can get a bigger area here. This brush is just not quite big enough. Plus, this is softer bristles, and so it'll kind of be a softer look to my outer edges of that galaxy there. Milky Way or whatever it is. I think it is a galaxy. It's our galaxy, right? I don't know. I shouldn't even start conversations like this when I don't know the answer. So it just reveals how little I know about it. We're in the Milky Way. Part of the Milky Way, I think. Pretty sure.
All right, and the answer is yes, the Milky Way.
Oh, the G-Man. I see what you're saying. Google. Okay. That. I'm like, who's the G-Man? Is there a astronomy expert watching tonight? And they're like, oh, yeah, no.
So we are in one of the arms of the spiral galaxy called the Milky Way.
Nice. Okay. There we go. So, and, you know, you can be as fancy with this as you want. So a little bit or a lot, it's just up to you. However you want to do it. And then I'm just going to kind of fade it out a little bit. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do this. You can leave it completely blue and call that good. It's up to you. It's your painting. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. All right. But I'm just going to kind of show you an option. You know, this is how I approach it. To make it the easiest, I feel like, most approachable, easy way. I'm going to get a little bit of white on this blender here. And I'm going to just kind of find my brightest spot of the moon. Right in the middle here. I feel like this area just needs to be a little bit brighter. And just kind of scratch out a little bit of extra brightness. Just kind of mostly in the middle here. Just a few little places there. Okay, that looks good.
So as being discussed in a chat, once you're done with this, you can take it a couple different directions. You could make it a Halloween theme and
Yep.
do like a witch on a broomstick.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
If they still use them nowadays, I don't know if that's the correct mode of transportation, but it might be an electric broomstick. I don't know.
Don't know.
It's all earth
Using a
conscious.
little bit of yellow here.
Or, for Christmas, maybe a sleigh.
Ooh, yeah. Actually, yeah, we did do a moon last year, didn't we?
Yeah, with the kids looking out the window.
Little boy looking out the window. Yeah, now that you said that, it reminded me. I paint too much. I forget what I've done. Oh, yeah, I did do one. Like, it's been a long time since I painted one last Christmas. So long ago. I forgot. Getting burnt umber here, a little bit of glaze just to help go on a little bit more thinly. And doing the same thing that I did with the white. So now I'm just kind of bumping up that contrast with the darker shadows. Okay, let's call that just about good. And you just keep on doing it until you get the, amount of contrast that you want in yours. So now I'm going to start on my tree. Yep, thank you. That's the word.
I didn't know if it was a quiz show there.
No.
If you were quizzing yourself or me. So
Was Mark paying attention?
I buzzed in. Tree.
Tree.
Oh, sorry, I didn't do it in the form of a question.
Correct for 500.
What is a tree?
You are right, sir. Thank you. All right. So here, I'm going to switch to a white pencil. So I've got some coming down here, some coming off and down here. Some coming up that way. Some coming up right there. And then these ones going right over the top of the moon. And then all this is going to be filled in. Okay, and a little bit down here. And then right in here. Okay, so that just kind of gives me an idea of where to put my stems. I'm switching to a 3 round. And this just so that I can get kind of a good point here. You can use a liner brush or whatever works for you. I'm going to use this fluid carbon black because it'll give me a head start. I won't have to do any kind of special thinning out. It's kind of hard to thin out the heavy body acrylics, so this will already start out nice and thin for me. But if you don't have it, just thin out your heavy body acrylics. A little bit over the moon there. It goes to about halfway right here. So there's like a leaf that comes off right here. Some leaves that come off this way. A little bit right there, a little bit this way, and then this large section right here that comes down. And again, you can kind of just, you can do these in sections, or it helps if I kind of wiggle it just a little bit. Create these Y shapes where the junction of the branches are. And just make sure that your branch gets thinner as it goes away from the trunk, tree trunk. So these ones down here where they're ending, just make sure that you keep them very thin right there, and then they can get thicker and thicker and thicker as they go off the canvas there. Okay, so there we go. And there's some, whoops, there's some back here too. I'll go ahead and just put a couple of, even though I'm not really seeing what's happening back here, there's a few crisscrossing branches there. So I'll just go ahead and kind of give it something to latch onto and give these kind of, if you kind of have an idea of where your leaves are going to go, you can kind of give them a little home to live. It makes it easier when you start to do your leaves. Okay, so I think I'm going to try it with my 3/8 inch angle brush. Actually, that might be a little bit big. I don't know. Let me see. I use the wet water, on my brush over the top of my wet water. That's as opposed to dry water.
I was going to ask.
I think I will use the bigger one, just to get an idea of how big the brush strokes are going to be. It's kind of an easy way of doing it.
I guess that's where dry ice comes from.
I'm going to use my wet brush here, just damp brush, to kind of brush out that chalk line too. Make sure your black is dry. All right, there we go. And then at this point, if you feel like you need more of the stars, which I probably do right in here, I'm going to try to cover, what do I want to do? I'm just going to put my little paper towel down over the top of my moon area. There we go. I'm not worried about my branches if I go over the top of them. I should have done this before I did my branches, what I'm saying. But I forgot. All right, so I'm going to do just a little bit more. Just one more layer of, because right here where we kind of scrub that galaxy on, it usually kind of covers up. So make sure you get off any parts that are on your moon. You don't want that. And any bits that you don't like that are on your branches or whatever, you can wipe those off too. You don't want anything. Your stars aren't going to be in front of anything. They're going to be the farthest thing away. So you don't want them covering up anything. Okay, there we go. Nice. All right, So for our leaves, I'm going to go ahead and start with black, and I'm going to use this fluid because it'll just make it a little bit easier. And I'm going to use the Quinacridone Magenta. And this will make a really dark burgundy. I can add a little bit of burnt umber if I need to, but I'm going to go ahead and start up in here and just tap in different directions, just tapping my leaves. This is going to give me a good background base, nice and dark, for our brighter leaves to live. Right, and then where I'm going to go over my branches, I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate with it. But I'm really just letting the shape of the brush do the work. So if you're pointing it straight down and just flicking it and just turning it side to side, it's the shape of this brush is already looks leafy, you know, just by changing this direction of the angle that it's hitting that canvas. And on some of these that you really want to be careful, or like really want to show that three leaf, you know, maple leaf look, then you can kind of go slower, and you know, some of these outer ones, make sure that you've got a really good like maple leaf look to it. See that? Not fun? And again, you can do this with a round brush too if you don't want to do it with the angle brush or you don't have one. It's basically the same thing. With the round brush, you would just be, I'd probably use a little bit bigger round brush, but I would just be kind of turning it and dipping it and tapping it in different directions too. So get the same look with this, or with the chisel blender, same deal, just using the corner of the brush and turning it and letting different parts of it touch the canvas. And if you look at your leaves, if you look at the cluster of leaves, it's really like you're not seeing your leaves all facing you, you know. So say this is my leaf and this is my leaf shape here. Unless some of the leaves are going to be turned on their side, some of them are going to be facing straight up at us. So some of them are just going to be like dots. Some of them are going to be more of a blade, and some of them are going to be this flat shape. And then in this case, we've got, you know, 3 times 3. So, you know, we're getting all kinds of crazy angles and shapes out of this. So don't, you know, don't be too fussy with this. Just dab it on. It's gonna look better, I think, if you go fast and just kind of try to basically block in some shapes. This is our farthest background color, so we're not trying to kind of get it just so right yet. Some of these are. Okay. There we go. And then now I'm making this look easy because I've done this a bazillion times. So you just practice on paper if you're, you know, if you're not comfortable with it or if it feels awkward to you, until you kind of get the rhythm of it. But like I said, I feel like the less you get too fussy with it, the better, you know.
It's kind of like learning to dance.
Right.
You know, those have been doing it for years and make it look super easy, and then you go out there and it's like stumbling all over the place.
Exactly.
And you go back to playing video games.
Yeah, video game is a good analogy. Yeah. All right, so now I'm mixing the magenta with the Cadmium Red Light, and I'm going to go in here and just do some highlighted leaves with this. Now, if it's not showing up, you can add just a tiny smidge of white. This seems to be doing okay. Cadmium's a very opaque color. It's pretty opaque, so it's going to cover over fairly well. But if it's not covering, like I said, you can always add a little bit of tiny smidge of white. You don't want too much because it will make your color turn pink. So if it does turn pink, you can add a little bit of yellow, and the yellow will counteract the pinkness. And some of these are like highlights on these leaves that we've already done. So some of them I'm just going to kind of tap over the top of some of these leaves that we've done. And some of them I'm going to create all new leaves over them. These ones over here are fairly dark. Not a whole lot happening. So I'm just going to do just a few little bits, and that is good. I did a few more down here on this one just to fill out the branches. I wanted it a little bit thicker. All right, and then get the cadmium with the orange, cadmium red and cadmium orange together. So I'm just slowly getting more and more warm with my color here, adding a little bit brighter each time. And this again, if it doesn't cover well enough for you, you can add a little bit of white. I'm just looking at my photograph and seeing where I'm seeing the extra color happening. Deep. Okay. Don't get the other thing to watch out for is just don't get too matchy with it, like too much pattern. What can happen when you're doing this is you can kind of start to get comfortable with it and start to do the same motion over and over again, repeat yourself, and then that kind of creates an unrealistic look. So just kind of watch out for that. If you're doing this, you get into it and you're like, okay, leaf, and then you end up with this long line of same. So just kind of watch out for it. Move around the canvas a little bit as you're doing this so that you're not repeating the motion in the same spots and over again, All right. You get what I'm saying. Okay, that's about all we're doing. We're not going to do a whole lot more than this. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit more of that red. The magenta, bright red. Yeah, I'm going to add just a tiny touch of white to the magenta and cadmium red light. And we'll just use a little bit of this in a couple of places. This will really be brighter. I'm going to put a little bit over here. Oops, see, look what I just did. See that? That's exactly what I was talking about. I got a little too confident there. Ended up with the same. So I'm just going to get a little bit of my darker color. Go back over. There we go. So yeah, even if you do that, you can fix it. It's not a big deal. I do it all the time. It's really natural to kind of get in that rhythm and forget, forget to stop and look at the shapes you're making. All right. And then once you get this all done and dry, you can go back over it again in your brightest areas if you need a second coat. So if some of these areas dried and they're still a little bit too dark, you can go back over some of them and add just little bits of brighter color here and there. And it may, it may take a couple of times for you to get it just so. Ooh, I got something dripping right there. Let me go ahead and just do like that. These are all wanting to drip on me. And I'm going to go ahead and get my little black and just kind of put in some more of these branches over the top of some of this and just like solidify some of the branches. Make them a little bit more prominent. You can do them over the top of your leaves now because not all the leaves are going to be behind everything. Some of the leaves are going to be kind of on top of things. Branches are going to be on top. That's what I meant to say. And if you've got any leaves that are out here on their own that don't have a branch to them, you can add the branch at this time too. It kind of helps define things. All right. That's about it. We're done.
That's it?
I know. It's a fast one. Actually, I think I want to, I say that I'm going to fix this little shape right here. I don't like how that is right up against the side of the moon there. So I'm just going to make sure that it's got a going over it instead of right up against it. When you have two things that are setting right up against it, it draws the eye and your eye wants to kind of continue. So if you just kind of overlap it a little bit, it kind of stops that from happening. It's better than having two objects meet up in the same space, if that makes sense.
So while you're doing that, we'll just mention the patreon.com/angelfineart. This past Sunday was the first 2/3 of a marathon
Yeah.
bonus video.
I showed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got that and traceables at $2 level and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I'll be doing the traceable for this later on tonight, so it should be up either tonight or first thing tomorrow.
then also coming up here in October, I think, right? You have your kaleidoscope
Yes.
will be airing.
I still don't have the link for that in my description, so
So you have to go to the get a newsletter.
go to my website.
Go to the website there and use a link. And if you join using Angela's link, then she'll get credit for it.
Yes, and if you join join our newsletter, you also get a free color chart and a free video. Duck video, yeah. One of
Mandarin
our old
duck.
bonus videos to check out our Patreon videos if you're interested in that. So, but It's just kind of a freebie for saying thank you for signing up for our newsletter. So, yeah. All right, I'm going to go in with some black and just kind of going. I kind of covered all my black up with color. So just going back in, making sure I have some really dark areas. Go. Got a kitty cat purring over here.
She's trying to get comfortable.
Don't like that too much. So if you do one that you don't like, you can wipe it off if you catch it right away. There we go. Just be careful not to rub too hard because the canvas isn't fully set. You know, you'll end up wiping off your color.
Sorry, I was doing some cat purring in the mic there for everybody.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm going to come out just a little bit more because I feel like it's creating a straight line. You see that? How it's kind of creating this box shape. So I'm going to bring one of these out just a little bit more so that it's going to change that shape and make it a little bit more. There we go. More in and out. So now we've got this shape here instead of that squared off edge. All right, I like that better. All right, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to sign it. And I think I have, let me see, did I get a round? I thought I had my round number 1.
You used the line or something at the beginning.
I thought I did, yeah.
You did for the branches.
That was this number 3 round, but I thought I had a round, like a smaller round. But, all right, I'm going to get one. Grab it. Sorry, I'll just use my paint pen instead.
Super chat.
Super chat.
Yeah, we have a super
Nice.
chat. Yeah.
Yay.
Right here at the end, it was from Andy, and she says, "Thank you for your time."
Oh, thank you, Andy.
Thank you so much.
Oh, very sweet.
Yes.
Andy could be a guy, too.
It could be.
Is this she?
I probably offended them. I'm sorry.
Gotta ask.
Andy, could you please clarify?
Thank you, Andy. Whoever you are, we appreciate it. Super sweet. Okay, so one thing I didn't mention that I meant to. So these areas where we did the white, what we can do is go back in and glaze. What?
Okay, she said, "We've gone over this before. She's a she."
She's a she. Have we?
I think I've made that mistake before, and I think that's why it's stuck in my head.
Got it. Thank you, Andy.
So we're slow.
So yeah, I know. We'll remember Andy next time.
And was that a Posca pen you just used?
No, it was a PBO acrylic marker. And these should be in my Amazon shop because that's where I got them, I believe. I think it's a 0.7. I think. I can't remember now. I know I have some acrylic markers, but basically you want an acrylic marker, not a water soluble or regular, like not a watercolor marker, because then it'll just wipe right off as soon as you varnish. And the ones that I used for so long, these ones, the Pigma Sakura, they are waterproof and light fast, but the maker said that they're not meant for porous or no, they're meant for porous surface, so like paper. They're more of a paper pen than a canvas pen, and sometimes they don't adhere well to canvas, so, or over the top of acrylics. So that's why I switched over. If you're like, she used to use the other, that's why I heard that, and I was like, well, I better stop using those then. I mean, I used them for years and didn't have, occasionally when I would varnish a light color, I would have issues, but most of the time they did just fine, but enough problems that I don't want to use them, anymore during the shows, just in case. I don't want people to get them and use them and then have problems. So, all right, guys, thanks so much for watching tonight. I'm looking at my reference photo, so I think I probably could have gone a little bit sharper on my contrast on the moon, but I've already got my leaves in front of it. I'm not going to worry about it right now, but you could probably do your layers. So this is like 3 layers. You could probably do 4, maybe even 5 layers on your moon. Since you're covering up that dark blue, it can take a few layers to get, especially white, over the top of it. So, but the screen is going to be brighter than actual paint. So it all, like always when you're using, looking at an image on a screen, the screen light is shining through and it's going to be brighter than you can get in paint anyways. It's just never going to be as bright as you're seeing on the screen. So
we got a quick question.
This may be about as good as we get. Yes.
Somebody would like to know, would you be able to save the paint that's left over on your palette?
Yeah, if you get a Stay Wet palette, you could use that. I wouldn't use it for mixing your paints because it can kind of, I don't really like them, but you can even put them on a foam plate. You don't even have to have a special Stay Wet plate. Just get a foam plate, something that's not, or even plastic bin, plastic tray or something like that. Just something that's not water soluble or porous of any, at all. I'm gonna fix this.
That's what she used to do with the styrofoam plates.
Right.
You'd put one over the other.
Yes, you put your paint down on the styrofoam plate, and then you put another one sandwiched on top, so it just makes a kind of a dome over the top of it, and you stick it in a gallon bag.
Would you spray it?
Yeah, spray it with water real good. You can even put a little bit of paper towel in there if if you're concerned about it. But I never really had issues. It'll stay for up to a week like that. You just kind of spray it every couple of days to make sure that it's staying wet in your bag. Seal it really good with a gallon bag. Get most of the air out as if you can. But yeah, they'll stay just fine. So that's how I usually do it. All right. Thanks, guys, so much for hanging out with us again on Tuesday. And hope you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And come back. We're going to be painting again on Saturday. We're going to be painting. Are we doing a squirrel? I think we are.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that's going to be fun. I'm already putting up my October schedule as well. So if you want to see that, you can click on my name or photo and you can go and see get a little preview of some of the stuff that we're going to be painting in October. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of really fun fall type projects that we're going to be doing. So sorry, I'm just still kind of fiddling.
I'm used to it.
I know. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna stop.
You can do it. I don't know.
No, it's good. I'll stop here.
One show we did come back after the credits.
We did. I think it was a rooster. I can't remember why. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your week, and hopefully we'll see you on Saturday. All right. Take care. Bye.